The problem that the Bush administration had in the last 2 years is that they did not engage enough. And I actually had Secretary Rumsfeld on the show. I said, you got to do more of this. You got to talk to people for a half hour and 45 minutes. And the president's got to do more of that, and the vice president's got to do more of that. And Mitch McConnell coming on last night. We got a great story to tell. We are right. The war is important. The war is not a war of choice. It's a war of necessity. And they've got it. When General Abizaid comes on the program, talks for half an hour, that's what they have to do. They have to break through the Beltway Manhattan media net, which is hard left overwhelmingly, as Tom Edsall on my program, longtime Washington Post reporter, I'm sure he's been on this show before, said 95% of the media is left-wing, liberal, and they filter the news. And this administration, following the lead of Tony Snow, has got to get out there and engage in long-form conversations with the American people, and then they'll persuade them by the time 2008 rolls around.
We've got some more emails. This comment for Christy Harvey: the talk comes from across the table reminds me of the expression sour grapes. The resentment that they lost is reflected in the sarcastic comments about Murtha and the Democrats. It sounds like they want the Democrats to fail by today's standards, which Republicans helped to create. Isn't that attitude unpatriotic? I'm a Democrat, but I certainly don't hope the Republicans fail in their leadership of the government. The fact that the Republicans did fail after 6 years of power is their fault, not the voters' fault. But the voters did correct the problem in the last election. This comes from Paul Warwick.
Well, at least Paul didn't say that Hugh smelled like Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure that's what you want to smell like.
I think Rush is fine. He's very aromatic, and he's a legend, and he's a pathbreaker, but go ahead.
But I do think that that is reflective of what a lot of people want. People are tired of the log jams. People were frustrated by this past Congress, which really got very little accomplished because of all of the infighting. And no one is going to win a campaign by saying, I'm going to stop anything from happening in this Congress. People are ready for change. People are ready for a clean slate. And my goodness, people are ready for things to actually get done.
New Orleans, Louisiana, on our line for Republicans. What are you ready for?
Hi, CSPAN. Thank you very much. I'm a World War II veteran. I served in the Pacific, and my friends died on the islands over there. And during that time, everybody supported the troops. My impression, and all my friends in the area and my veteran friends feel that the Democrats do not support our troops. They're running for office, running for power. And Christy, I'm going to have to tell you this, dear. The reason that this election went like this is because of the obstruction the Democrats did in Congress. They would not cooperate. They should cooperate to be Americans, not Democrats or Republicans. I went overseas as an American. And here we have Democrats who block this, block that. They ought to look at the tapes and see how foolish they are. And another thing is, down here in New Orleans, we're suffering. Poor people have nothing. And the number of the Democrats in the Senate voted against the money to help restore the shoreline. That includes Kennedy. That includes the people from Illinois and California.
Thanks for your call, sir. Christy Harvey.
Well, I actually think that Democrats and progressives are the ones who are really supporting the troops, because they are trying to, right now the military has been stretched so thin. The equipment that the military uses is starting to get into real shambles. And a lot of the Democrats and progressives are trying to say, okay, let's shore the military back up. Let's make sure we support the troops both over in the wars and when they come home. And let's get the military back into American fighting strength. And so I actually have to say that I disagree with the last caller.
I do too. I think it's almost unbalanced to say that Senator-elect Webb does not support the troops. He's a Silver Star winner. He's a great American. His son is, I believe, deployed in Iraq as we speak. He will be a tremendous voice. I disagree with him on Iraq, and I reserve the right to dissent from what he does, but he's a great American. And there are lots of... Jack Murtha's a great American. He's just wrong. And I think this is the key thing that people... I wish they would just read The Looming Tower and understand. Have you read that book?
I haven't. I think I'm going to write that down right now and get it on my
Lawrence Wright, New Yorker reporter. It's not a war of choice. It's a war that we can't walk away from, and that's the crucial difference. But the disagreement is not unpatriotic. It's like, Notre Dame is going to crush USC in a couple of weeks, and that's a good thing. But you don't go to that game hoping for a tie. You go to that game rooting, either if you're ill-informed about football, USC, or if you're smart, Notre Dame, and you want one of them to win passionately. And what I am about this. I think most Republicans are. But I don't hate USC and I don't hate Democrats. They're just wrong.
Going on with your football metaphor, I also think, though, that you hope that the coaches of the team have done their homework and have an actual strategy for winning. And if you don't think that they do, then I fully support you as a fan to yell things from the stands and hope that the coach gets it together and comes up with a strategy. And
to stretch it even one point, we've got Jim Tressel and Charlie Weiss on my side.
And a reminder to both of our guests that this is C-SPAN, not ESPN. Back to the phones, Fort Worth, Texas, on our line for Democrats. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank God for C-SPAN. I think it's a great show. I'm just calling. I was going to say something else, but I heard the football analogy on.
No more football.
Totally wrong. First of all, we're on the same team, so that analogy is no good. And second of all, the voters have shown that that analogy is wrong. They've said, okay, look, we wanted a certain mandate, and you didn't give it to us, so we're voting you out. So I just think that's a warning that to the Republican Party that they need to change the tact. And now remember, we are all on the same team. It's not one against the other, and we have to win regardless of what. That's all I had to say. And thank God for C-SPAN.
Hugh Hewitt.
Well, again, I'd like to remind the caller that we're not all on the same team on taxes. We're not all on the same team on a bunch of issues. And so we're not going to just roll over. The last national election was 2004. George Bush crushed John Kerry by more than, 4 million votes? 3.5 million votes? He is the guy who won the national vote. And I believe that the Republicans will win the national vote in 2008. If you believe like I do, you don't simply say, oh, you want a few House seats, very narrowly. You want a bunch of Senate seats. You've got a 1-vote margin in the Senate, so we lose and you can have whatever you want. No, that wasn't a national election. It was a off-year, 6-year election. We're not going to go home, and they're not going to get what they want. They're wrong.
Christy Harvey.
I think the caller was right. We all are on the same team, and I honestly hope that people are trying to do what's best for the country and what's best for America. And I think that when you get very polarized and you're really on the far, far right, I think you lose sight a little bit of what the average American and what my mom and dad and kids are thinking right now, which is, come on, let's just get it together. Let's stop bickering. Let's stop fighting and spitting and just actually get some work done.
Radio talk show commentators, talk show hosts Hugh Hewitt and Christy Harvey are our guests, and the next call comes from Bentleyville, Pennsylvania, on our line for Republicans.
Good morning, C-SPAN. I love your show. You guys are great.
Thank you.
I just want to make a couple comments. Mr. Hewitt, you make the remark a couple times about the Democrats just being wrong. You know, I happen to be Republican, and, you know, my, opinion on issues aren't etched in stone as far as the Republican Party goes. You know, we're all on the same team, as the previous caller had mentioned. And I'm glad to see that in this election there were some crossovers with the general stereotypes with the candidates. You know, generally when you speak of the Republican Party, you're looking at, you know, corporate America, you know, business owners, white men, you know, and the Democratic Party is, for the most part, the makeup of the minorities. And the balance is there, but, you know, everybody has to pull together. And I just want to make one other comment about one of the issues that is you know, on the floor is the minimum wage. And there's a suggestion that, you know, I have thought of that would make the minimum wage somewhat progressive based on age. You have 3 different ages that, you know, people, look towards as far as, you know, when they grow, you know, as they're growing up. Age 16, age 18, age 21. I would like to see some sort of a wage structured to allow 16-year-olds maybe a $5 an hour wage, 18-year-olds a $6 an hour wage, 21-year-olds maybe get $7 an hour. However you structure it, you know, giving people a little bit of just comfort in knowing that as they are growing older, taking on additional responsibilities, that money's going to be there for them. And I don't see, you know, why all the debate. There's simple issues out there that can be resolved rather easily if we work together and you know, not looking at this as if